So the, let's see, where we are at the January 2024 meeting of the Board of Commissioners for the SWPRD Parks and Recreation District. We are called to order at 6:02. And this is, I'm sorry, this is the annual meeting. Thank you. We're going to start with the annual meeting. All right. So, we will start with the election of officers, the 2024 Board of Park Commissioners.
I've got a quick motion that I can make. I'm going to suggest we move to just extend the assignments as they are right now until we finish the comp plan. Because we form the committees around comp plan projects. So, if, for example,
These are officers,
officers,
chair, vice chair, treasurer, etc.
okay. Well, for the officers' conversation, or for the committee's conversation, that we just defer that, continue as is until comp plan is done.
May not have been any changes to the committee now, so.
Yeah, committees is next. We have to have our slate.
My understanding, tell me if I'm wrong, is that everyone's happy in their current
Correct.
positions. So if that is the case, someone may make a motion just to say that they suggest keeping the board officers the same throughout 2024. We can do it that way. That's
I'll make a motion to extend board officer assignments through 2024.
Krista.
So I don't know if this is just form, but in the template that I'm working with, it looks like each position needs to be nominated.
That's the way it's happened in the past, and if there's changes, that does have to happen like that. But if there's no changes, the board can just decide to keep it the same for another calendar year. I know Carrie gave you a template.
Okay.
But in this
I
case,
just want to make sure that it, I don't know if this is generated by policy or just where she was trying to help me out. So
I think
that's
it's
why-
something. I think we love Carrie. It was-
Okay, so in a motion made by Matt, take it away.
I would like to second that, please.
I will second that motion.
All right, it has been moved and is seconded to
That was it for us.
And board officer assignments through
continue
2024.
board officer assignments for 2024. All those in favor say aye.
Erica.
Jake,
Chris,
Kristen?
aye.
For aye, all those opposed say nay. The ayes have it and the motion passes. Next on the agenda is the commissioner committee assignments.
I will make a motion to extend the current committee structure and assignments through the completion of the comp plan.
I will second that motion.
It has been moved and seconded to maintain the committee assignments through completion of the comp plan. All those in favor say aye.
Erica.
And Jake, aye.
Krista, aye.
Jennifer, aye. All those in favor opposed say nay. The ayes have it and the motion passes. The annual meeting is adjourned at 6:06. We will now call to order the January 2024 meeting of the Board of Commissioners for the SWPRD Parks and Rec District at 6:06. We have a quorum present. Is there anyone for public comment?
there's no one online, and I believe Susie's comments are going to come later, correct? So nothing this time.
Then we will move on to the approval of the minutes. Has everyone had an opportunity to, excuse me,
We have 2 sets.
I see that, from just the December 20th, 2023, as well as the January 3rd, 2024 special meeting.
Yes.
Comments or changes that need to be made? I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the January 3rd and December 20th minutes as stated.
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the minutes of the January 3rd, 2024 special meeting and the December 20th, 2023 board meeting. All those in favor say aye.
Erica.
And
Jake, aye.
Krista, aye.
Rebecca, aye. All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. The motion passes. The minutes are approved. Matt, will you please lead us the treasurer's?
Can I ask one quick clarifying question, just so I know, who signs the minutes usually? This is a Carrie thing, this is Krista usually, it's all safe applicants, okay. On to the,
As an attempt to not have a reformatted treasurer's report, so look at that, it works.
yeah, this is really smart.
Okay, so year-end report, so a few notes, again, favorable is up in all cases. This is the cumulative, and you can see the year-end green line, bright green line above the darker green line says favorable overall at the end of the calendar year. That totaled around 204,000. A couple things that are missing from this, you see in that note at the top. So the ARC expenses for the aquatic center, because there's a time lag and they're 100% reimbursed, we are managing them as debits and then negative debits out in the M&O. So we just remove those from this calculation because the net is going to be zero. So we just made a note of that here. So that's the only note on this slide. So that sets us up, that favorability sets us up for our fund transfer, which we'll get to in a second. This is a change to this slide. You've seen revenue in the past with these red bars are the campground, and both on the revenue and expense side. We had budgeted 47,700 in revenue and expense matching, and we had not reflected that month by month during the year. We had sitting in December because we knew we were on a longer lead time on the campground opening. But I think the more correct way to reflect it is this, because we originally had budgeted it this way. So you haven't seen it this way, and our revenue's been on the favorable side of zero up until I added this across the month, because the original way we'd have huge red line in December and the revenue will drop below the line. So anyway, with that included, we still were only 17K unfavorable in revenue. So that's quite close and, within the acceptable tolerance. Go to the next slide on expenses. You'll see expenses, big chunk of that was the no director during the year. So we ended up 222K favorable. That's yielded the 204 cumulative. And then the final slide shows the fund expense or the fund balances. You can see we're on plan. January is our transfer month. So we're transferring roughly 120,000 into the reserve to bump it up to the 2024 target level. There's a little bit of the math has gotten a little more confusing in setting that reserve level because of the ARC expenses. So we can remove those from the calculation since they're going to net to zero. And we have the state reimbursement for them. The logic there is that the reserve fund is designed to run the park in the event of the loss of the M&O levy. If we lost the M&O levy, the ARC expenses would still be paid because they're coming from a different funding source through Department of Commerce. So there's no need to add additional reserve to account for the ARC expenses since they have their own funding stream. So for that reason, that 120K is calculated based on the preceding year's budget for 2024 without the ARC not presented. So in case that question comes up, that's the logic behind it. And that transfer again will happen in January. The other things that we are going to work on in January that we'll talk about in the next month, just so you're aware. If you remember in the fundamental principles, we had established this new fund called the Capital Reserve to allow us to have some reserve for things like the post on the building at the Crow's Nest, the roof needing work, the bathroom need to be redone, and not having any kind of bandwidth to handle that. So what we said is at the end of each year, we take our available, we do the reserve transfer, And whatever ending cash we have above the ending cash target level, 30% of that goes into that capital reserve. So Carrie's not yet come to that final math yet. So we will come up with, that'll happen this month. And in February, you'll see that capital fund is now funded with whatever 30% of that available ending cash is. So that should get us, I can't tell you what it's gonna be, but we had forecast it would be about 50,000. That'll get us at least something so that in 2024, we have that capital bandwidth, but that's not happened yet. Will happen in the next 4 weeks. Yeah. So that's that.
So if I'm looking at your spreadsheet.
Yeah, yeah.
Is that the one down here that says capital parenthetically Maxwell Trails Fund?
No, it'll be a new.
It'll be a new line.
Yeah, those are our attempts to break out the bond payments and give detail, because we used to call it the capital fund, but it's really the Maxwell Trails Bond repayment fund. So it'll be a new fund that's the capital reserve.
All right, thank you.
Any questions on that before we look at vouchers?
Reserve being the keyword, thank you.
Yeah, I think of it as reserve.
That's,
Yeah.
okay, so got it.
Don't spend it, except in case we really need it. Okay, vouchers.
Vouchers are pretty straightforward from what you got on Friday. There's only a few small additions down here. They're pretty much just maintenance things. You'll see a couple things there from CBOS was added. Couple Adobe and accounting software things, nothing major, electrical and water stuff. So no major ads from the draft that you guys received on Friday. So I can answer any questions about it, but pretty straightforward.
Just the M&O total. Yeah, so M&O, the correct total, 186, 437.78.
186, 437,
So 119 from profit.
Correct.
Okay, any questions? Vouchers? Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the vouchers for January in the amount of $186,437.78 from the M&O fund. Second that.
Moved and seconded to approve the vouchers for January 2024 in the amount of $186,437.78 for the M&O fund. All those in favor say aye.
Eric, aye.
Matt, aye. Jake, aye.
Krista, I.
Jennifer, aye. All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it and the vouchers are approved.
Okay, last thing is that last page in your voucher document shows that exact January reserve transfer amount. Just doing the sheet, just got one thing about, yeah, 119,546. So. Thank you.
Krista, for the notes, Tom is here.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, will you, Brian, please lead us through the staff report.
Well, Polar Bear Dive was a huge success. It's my first one, but I understand it was much larger than normal. Beautiful day out there. Matt participated. So I think my daughter's home from college, and she said she didn't think that many people lived on South Whitney. The place was packed, really great weather, good attitude. Sky did a great job helping out there.
It was too warm.
It was on
Yeah, do something about the temperature. It's like 60 degrees on the beach.
It was odd. I mean, it felt like almost like a early spring day.
I mean, it was easily the most fun. Like, I looked back to see how far we could figure out the number of registrants, and it blew everything out.
Funny.
Yeah.
Literally.
He's here all day, folks. Basketball is taking off. Sky has been crazy trying to put the teams together, still recruiting coaches, which is always a challenge. One or at least one of the two of the leagues didn't quite have enough kids, so we're kind of reformatting it into a doing more group clinic thing, and then letting them scrimmage against each other so they can still play. So it's going well. You can see the numbers there. Great to see the fifth and sixth graders back. The girls are the challenge. So we're going to build the girls up and focus a little bit on trying to focus there. Sky's also found a possible basketball coordinator that may want to look at doing things beyond winter. And doing something that extends, trying to build this up into more than just a, 6-week program. So we're working through some of that. So basketball's chaos, but it's a lot of fun. And should be starting, I think practice will start next week. Right? So.
Hey, Brian, there's
Yes.
somebody waiting in the lobby.
Sorry, I minimized the screen here.
I might be able to admit them. Oh, there we go.
Got it. Other than that, the heat, the multi-purpose gym at the community center is working, which basketball players are rejoicing. And adult drop-in volleyball starts February 10th. So that's a new thing coming. Facilities, Tom was gone the first 2 weeks of January, which was weird. I haven't even been here that long, and it was weird to have Tom around. But Austin and Chance did a great job. They really stepped up to the thing, and it made some chaos with the weather. Staff did a full assessment of the snow, particularly on Friday, because that was kind of the first day where it was kind of iffy. We agreed to leave the park open. Felt it was safe enough for people to get in there. They left it open all weekend. Other than that, they're just catching up on a lot of projects. It's winter, so they're getting on to the projects, some of the small stuff. Tom and I got a project thrown at us this afternoon when one of the pipes burst in the pump house and started flowing water out aggressively. Fortunately, we had a nice community member who called us on that. Otherwise, it would still be gushing as we speak. So anyway, so project time, director report. We interviewed 6 candidates for the administrative assistant 2 position. Over 20 people applied, which was great. They were amazingly qualified. Really impressed by the quality of the applications. The position has been offered, conditional to passing her background and reference checks to Shelby Lovecheck. She is local here. She won't be starting until March 18th, simply because she took a temporary assignment, another job, and wanted to keep that commitment, and that works for us. So she'll be starting mid-March. We're going to get her on before that and do some virtual stuff with her because she's down in Olympia on this job. So just getting her kind of acclimated virtually beforehand, kind of similar to what you guys did with me, bringing her on and just giving her a few hours to kind of learn the ropes. After she starts, probably in April, we'll have her into a board meeting to introduce her to you guys. Contract with the DOC for the second half of the design has been signed. The update is the DOC has also signed it and returned it to us. So that is a fully executed contract that we can start building against. So Carrie's very happy to start sending some bills their way. We have a few RFPs out right now. We have an RFP for the pickleball design. It's due back by January 24th. This is for the design and contract documents, a portion of it. Hoping if everything goes perfectly to have a company maybe selected by the February meeting. Likely might be March, depending on how it goes, but that's good. That's moving forward. I'll skip one and say the cultural resources work, which was a requirement, as we mentioned before, for the pickleball courts. That work has been completed. They are just now the company that we contracted with is just compiling their report, which we should have this week. When we have the report, we'll send it on to RCO, which will meet that requirement. And the other RFP that just went out yesterday was for a commissioning agent. This is due back February. It's actually February 1st. I changed it. This is a required position as part of the Aquatic Recreation Center project. This company will work kind of on our behalf, kind of between ARC and the contractor. They're likely to be an engineering company. So they'll be the people that can kind of deep dive into some of the details. So when we get those back, we'll have some more things to discuss. So lots of things out. And as I mentioned earlier, Carrie is off until probably next Wednesday. She's taking care of family. So we're thinking Wednesday's her day back, but that could ever flow by a day or two. So that is staff report.
Great. Any questions?
No donuts in the snow on baseball fields?
Oh, well, Tom was gone.
Not on the baseball fields, but soccer fields. Just kind of around some of the hills, some of the roads, the turnarounds, stuff like that. No damage.
They're sledding.
Not like on the fields like last year.
They're sledding the hill today.
A little bit.
A little bit. Yeah, there's a couple people.
Not very slippery. Kind of slushy.
Yeah.
A few people showed up.
Awesome.
Okay. Are there any committee reports?
Yeah, campground. Krista, do you want to talk about it or do you want me to talk about it?
Go, please, if you would.
Yeah. So Krista, Brian and I met 2 weeks ago.
How long ago?
Maybe not. It was
I think it was
Last week?
last week.
Last
Just
week?
last week.
the day after the Husky. I remember.
Oh, okay, yeah.
The emotions are coming back.
Sorry. So none of us had met in quite some time, definitely not with Brian. And we came to the realization that it's going to be hard right now to go full steam ahead with pool and the pickleball. But we don't want to totally lose the grant money and any and all steam on the project. So we talked about, and still needs to be talked about in more detail about having the design rethought, get some eyes on it again from the engineer, not engineer, Jay Brennan, architects that architects. And the grant is matching up to about 400,000. If we spend up to, we could spend up to 400,000. We have a matching grant up to 400,000. And we did make progress by the end of 24, by the end of this year. So
I think just to add on to that, I think what we focused on was we can't control the permits. We're gonna keep going for the permits, but there's things we can still accomplish and use the grant money for that they've approved. Perhaps a new gate that maybe has code into it, so camp guests are coming in, those kind of things, the Wi-Fi in the park was discussed. There's lots of little things we could look to add that have nothing to do with the permit. And so we're gonna work on that while still trying to get the permit done, to at least maximize as much of that money as we can.
And so what's the thought behind reevaluating the layout?
I'm gonna hear what you said the last word. We're evaluating the what?
Layout.
Oh, well, I think the thought is to go back to the architect and kind of, it's been 7-8 years since they've, and I don't know I don't know how they got some basic schematics that we have of the layout. But I think I'd like to engage in a little bit of conversation and say, okay, what's the next thing in the process that you can do? I mean, is it, for instance, part of what we need for the county is some septic designs. We need some, that's something that they would do. There's just a lot of things we just don't know. And so, and it's been a long time since they've been part of this.
I didn't realize it had been that long.
And I remember from them, the lead there, they had, this is the kind of thing that Brennan does. Like they had just done a campground down in like Chehalis or someplace. They had done another one in Washington so like they were showing us layouts, and you squint your eyes, and ours was really similar. Just, they're good at this. So I fully support getting them back engaged and in terms of what you guys were saying about, the multiple parallel projects. I think, they're experts at this. Like we should use them for anything and everything we can to unload us, and then get us to that finish line.
Yeah, so bring them up to speed on where we're at with the county and the stumbling blocks.
Oh yeah, it'll be,
See where they can.
they'll be like, hey, you guys are back.
Well, the challenge is this, as Jake said, pickleball, aquatic center, it's easy for this to get lost. And it's like, that's why the conversation was so good, and I appreciate Krista and Jake coming in to have that, because I think it just keeps the conversation alive. And there's things we may not be able, we all want to get it done today. We want those permits yesterday, but the reality is we'll get the permits. It's just, we're waiting for the new person to get put in place so that I can schedule that meeting with Jake and Krista to go up there and start this over again. We'll get there, but we have a timeline of 11 months left to use that money. So,
Because we lost Jonathan.
well, I think we've lost a few people.
we've lost a few.
Because Jonathan
Get the
got
last one.
promoted.
I
Right.
think Jonathan got promoted up. And our other new contact has moved on and we haven't been told who the new one is yet.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, Jonathan got pulled up to a long range planner and got sucked in with the commissioners for their comp plan. So,
Yes, exactly.
Well, the other thing to think about is the 2024 grant cycle. The applications are due in the window of, 1 April to 1 May. So in terms of matching that 400 with something else, with, my recollection of the Brennan, it was something more than that. Like it was like, I don't know, 700,000 or 800,000. So if there's more than one grant program that would be aligned to doing this, like WWRP local parks, if we could make a grant application for WWRP local parks to match that 400 in this cycle, it would be, adjudicated in August and then funds available in October.
And the grant we currently have, I remember it's 400 and some if we match for them. So whatever we match up to 400, they'll match up to 400. So we could have a bait. But I think right now in reserves, we've got 200 and some in a foot campground that we have.
Right, but I'm saying we had $400,000 grant application approved, you instantly match all of it.
Yeah.
And so can bill against all of it.
So, yeah. So campground. Kristen, is there anything you wanted to add?
No, although just to ask you if you've had a chance to talk to Allison about some of our ideas about possible ways that we could use the grant money.
I've not had a conversation with Allison. That's what I've requested. It's just easier to talk to her than to email back and forth. But we're setting a time, and we have a couple projects in the hopper that I want to talk to her about, including the pickleball. So I have a request into her, and I've got my list from our meeting of things that we've talked about. So
Okay.
I'll let you guys know when I've finalized that meeting. And if I set the meeting with her, I'll invite you guys because it'll be virtual. You guys can sit in on that and have that conversation.
Okay. Thank you.
From my perspective, the thing we need from Brennan is simple bid documents that if we can ever get through the county, we've got something that we can go out quickly for bid. Because honestly, I mean, if we can get through that, this is a very simple project. I mean, if we're just doing a base layer initial, but we've actually got construction documents that say, okay, we need 2 inches of, 4-inch ballast, 2.5 inches of support, the top course, and we can set that out. Bid. That's what we need. We don't have that. I mean, the drawings we got, they're great, but that was to go get a grant. And that's one of the things I've been talking with Doug forever. And like, we don't have construction documents. What are we going to put out for bid? And so we could utilize some of that money to get those from Brennan. Right there.
Right, well, and the timing is the question, and it sounds like maybe there's a chance. So say we got a chunk of matching money and we found out about it in August. Could we bid it and then schedule it?
Get as much as we can get done.
Yeah.
Because I mean, it's just like we do our asphalt bids. We could say, A is going to be doing the loop, B would be coming in and doing the stalls. C could be doing it in, better entry road or whatever it may be. And see how far the bid stretch.
Right. Like I said, the timing is going to be key because
And I don't know if it could be used, maybe something to ask Allison is, can we utilize any of that money for project manager to go sit in the county and push?
We can. And that's another discussion. Right? That's what we need. Yeah.
Are you volunteering? Are you
yeah,
volunteering?
well, I mean, that's
That's not my niche.
But that is an approved way of using these funds.
it is.
If someone speaks the language, you can just take a load off.
Well, someone for whom it's a priority. Number one on the list, right? It's yeah. Hi, it's a priority. It didn't sound like. You could just.
Okay, any other committee reports? All right,
Just just one more thing on the lakes. If we don't hear back soon, I go remove that huge chunk of concrete that's a major hazard.
Excellent question.
Because
To put a yes and on that, I did get an email today from the community council. So when I go to that board meeting next week,
Yeah.
they are going to hit me up.
Okay.
You may recall that they took it upon themselves to reach out to the state, and they're not getting any answers either.
But I got an email once they reached out to the state, and the email was just looking into, wasn't answers, but it's that time.
So I'm gonna make sure that you stay in the loop on that, Brian, but anyway, so.
I'm just very worried. I mean, we're gonna be at fishing season before we know it. As a known hazard, recreational community, a lot of lives, so I mean, it's hurt. I mean, talked about it, we need to do something. And if it's just me going out with an excavator and pulling it out, let's do it. I don't know, I just, every time I go out there, I don't like seeing things like that in my parks.
They won't fix it. We can't fix it. If we pull it out, wasn't there something about we have to return it?
It's
very weird.
it does get weird because it's, and the reality is, I think they want to fix it. I think they're dealing with layers of bureaucracy that we're not. Whereas we would just send Tom out and be fixed tomorrow.
Right.
They've got to go through a lot of tape that we don't have to go through. So it's very similar to some of the other things we're dealing with them on now. I think they're well-intended people trying to help, but trying to make things work. But they've got a lot of channels they've got to run through that makes things.
Is there a possibility of delegation on their part then? Say, delegate this little piece of work.
We've asked for some ownership. We've asked, would you be willing to let us take the lead on the dock? Not that we would do it. We'd be willing to come back and have a conversation. It's simple as taking the cement out. I mean, just making it so that plank, Kristen knows what I'm talking about, that there's a weird little piece of wood there that isn't safe. Just getting rid of that so that you have to wade into the water or swim into the water to actually get on the dock, so that it's an obvious barrier, so you're not just thinking you're safe. I will get an update before your meeting. What day is your meeting next week? Well, I want to get it. That gives me a good timeline to push for. Monday? I think they're Monday meetings, aren't they?
Yeah.
I guess my point behind that comment though, is that if you ask them to fix the dock, it's a project. You're saying specifically, I'd like to do this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That may expedite the process a little bit.
Right. And we've asked permission to remove the interim with that dock. And it has to be run through. Whoever has the deciding authority, it's not as simple as calling that person up. I think it's has to go to a committee. It's not easy. And they have a beautiful new dock that they put in. And that's what I'm saying. This dock doesn't have the same value that it did before that dock was there, because the fishermen now have an option that's safe that they can go to on the other side.
And
So-
at the end of our meeting with them, we all came to the conclusion that at the very least, that concrete needed to be removed so that people understood that it wasn't safe. So they're very aware that it doesn't have to be fixing the whole dock.
How big of a gap is it roughly if that concrete was pulled out?
Oh, probably 6 feet.
Yes.
6 feet.
So enough that you know that you can't just walk onto the dock, but not enough that it's a hindrance if you're 80-degree day and you want to go swimming, just waiting out there.
Yeah.
I don't know. I will, I will do everything I can to make it kind of away from me, which is good. Creepy way, right?
All right, any other committee reports? And we'll move on to unfinished business.
Home plan program, the aquatic center. So we've hit a bit of transition point as here's where we are. is we're wrapping up the DD portion of the pool. And we've got a little bit of the time gap between now and when the bond money is gonna be released. This isn't a crisis or even a big deal at this point, there's just a timing issue. At this time, I'll read the invoice real quick, or the memo real quick. If the contracted CPA, which is doing their work now for our audit, and the state auditors stay on schedule, and the bond rating goes as we expect it to, we could see the release of the $15 million bond money by mid-May. That's if everything goes smooth. To be safe, I would suggest giving at least a 1 month buffer, and probably expect the money by mid-June, just because there's a lot of moving pieces that have to go smoothly. Also, we're considering ARC when they send bills, they get a 90-day payment. So if we get a bill today, we've got 90 days to pay before it's delinquent. So if we received a bill in April, it would not be due until July. However, we are obviously responsible for paying any bill on time if by chance there was a delay in the bond financing release. What I'm recommending at this point is that as we come up to the end of DD, that we hit the pause button, which means that we put the work that ARC is doing on hold for at least a month, allowing just time to catch up. It's just a time issue. I talked to Paul from ARC, who sends his apologies. He was on the agenda to be here tonight, but he's very sick. He's been sick for a while now. And so a pause would just give a little bit of time. So let's use a simple example and say we pause to the end of February. They go back to work in March. We would receive bills for that in April. We would have 90 days to pay those bills, which would take us into July, which gives us a nice cushion to make sure that there's no issues. Like I said, we may have the money by May, but I think the worst case scenario would be that we start commissioning work and the money gets delayed due to whatever. I mean, there's just a lot of little moving.
And so with this pause, they're able to restart kind of on demand?
It's a perfect transition point, Paul said, because they're coming at the end of DD. So they're getting the contract documents. He goes, it doesn't really have a major impact on the overall project. The only thing he asked was that Davido can continue to do their work, because their work is timely and does have a domino effect to a lot of the stuff. So that was fine, because that's a relative, we won't be getting those bills till later in the cycle. So I just think it's prudent. I think if we just let them just keep plowing through, we may get bills that we can't pay. Again, it's just a timing issue. It's a big, they don't just write their bond checks on January 1st. You have to go through some hoops. And it also allows just some time to catch up on all of that. So my recommendation at this point is that we approve at least a month bond, a month pause. Allow ARC just to take the month off, get back to it in March, and just keep going.
And in current state of approvals is we've approved the expenditure of money that we do have through the end of the second phase design development. So we really don't need to approve anything else. I mean, we don't have any authorization to go beyond that anymore. So to me, I think a motion is superfluous given that history. And I'd just say from the standpoint of the project, you look kind of on that table behind that you're unfortunately stuck leaning up against. That's the drawing set that we got for the center. It's 119 pages of drawings. And there's what the steering committee is in the process of doing is taking those, going out to visit our local sites that were built in the last 7-8 years, Skagit, YMCA, and Mount Vernon, Port Angeles, William Shore Pool, Rainier Beach, down in Seattle, Eastside Community Center, Tacoma, Sammamish, YMCA Community Center, and Issaquah, and finding the little things that we didn't think about the first time to make it better, to make it easier to use, to accommodate more people. So there's more than enough. It's that from my perspective, it's a great time to have a little bit of a break so we can look at those with a little bit of extra time and energy, because things we're catching so far have been, relatively large in their impact on people using the facility. So I think it's great. We can work. We don't cost anything.
I would add that every visitation seems to bring up one more find, one more. Goal.
Yeah.
Okay, let's change there. That's extremely valuable. I'm thinking to myself, how many pools are built, whether they do that kind of research, literally going and be in that pool and talking to the people that use it on a regular basis, how people run it. I think it's extremely valuable. I think we're doing due diligence today.
Yeah, so like I said, I think there's no impact, and I don't think we need a motion because we haven't approved anything beyond this anyway. The other mitigating thing, based on this bond timing, we are applying for a state capital LCP request for 2024. Application is due in January 26th. So that funding, they'll March, somewhere in that 1st of March window is when the state capital budget will be issued. So we're optimistic in that process. It would be us going through the same sequence with this commerce contract for the new funding authorization. So it could potentially get here before the bond proceeds due, and could allow us to restart with actual money. So we would know, say we know in March, and we understand, okay, we have this extra bandwidth, then we can make make a decision in the March meeting, say, hey, we've got this extra 2024 funding authorization. We know it's coming. It's going to take us 2 months to get the contract executed because we've done it twice, so we're faster at it than we did it the first 2 times. So let's prove expenditures out to that amount beyond the CD or the schematic design and the design development. So I think we could be as quickly as in March, knowing, yes, we do have additional capital to apply to the next phase, and then we can say, extend the authorization and then move forward, knowing that.
So given that this LCP request is due next week, let's discuss that.
So it's been reviewed by Representative Paul's office. They are deciding between Representative Paul and Representative Shavers who's going to be the principal sponsor. We've written it for Representative Paul. The total amount is being requested is, let me tell you. $661,471, and that comprises there is $50,631 in the current phase that's not funded yet because of
In the DD fund?
in the DD because of the amendments we made. We made a number of amendments to add the survey, the topo survey, the geotech survey, the hydrology survey, and the traffic study. So all those were added to DD after we got funded. So there's that $50,000 is remaining in DD to fund from those amendments. And then the next phase, which is titled construction documents, is $526,147. So that's the entire CD phase. The accompanying phase is called bid documents or bid support. That's $34,693. And then there's this last amendment that we just made for the water to the site. So the additional $70,000 to bring water to the site. 70. 20,000 of that is in CD. Sorry, is in DD, and 50,000 of that is in the next construction document phase. So all that adds up to the 661,471 request. So it covers what's remaining in DD that we didn't have money for because we made these amendments for the right thing to do at the time. And then the next phase, which comprises the generation of the actual schematic drawings that we can hand out to bid, and then supporting the bidding process. So that'll go in. They're doing a final review of it tomorrow and Friday to decide which representative is going to sponsor us. And then Senator Mazzal is the sponsor in the Senate. And off it goes.
Is there any reason why Representative Paul wouldn't? do
You
it?
know,
He's
I
got
spoke,
knowledge.
yeah, I spoke to him about it. And I can't, I mean, I have opinions. I can't comment about the internal workings of our two District 10 legislators. I
Right.
think they're, Representative Shaver is relatively new. The process of bringing him into the legislature and through those kind of,
The work step.
core functional, responsibilities that you have as a legislator, this may be part of that. So.
Well, kudos to Matt, who's around with this. To get that funding would be such a huge win for this project. It's amazing. Let me step back a little bit to the pause. And I think time-wise, because Matt brings up an excellent point, that the board hasn't authorized the beginning of CD at this point. What I understand, I wasn't here for that part, is I'm authorized through DD, which we're wrapping up. And as we go into CD, so it seems logical that I'll bring this up again in February to decide where we're at. By February, we'll know more. We'll know how the CPA work will be done by then. The audit will have started. We'll have a better timeline for that. Jim Nelson reached out to me today, so he's starting to percolate a little bit, getting us ready for the bond rating. So we'll know more in February to decide.
And to me, I think that we'll know about this, like I said, March 1st.
Yeah.
To me, the meeting we need to talk about the restart is March.
Right. But if we want to, and this is the board decision, if the board wants to go in that 90-day window, we could authorize before that. There's no rush. I mean, really, to say we're paused until March 4th meeting would be fine.
Yeah, I think we could accept a risk in February.
And it would be a risk.
But there's not much of a return on investment for that risk. So waiting 4 more weeks, it gives us more time as a committee to do that detailed review. So I think we end up better off that way. Just talk about it in March, knowing what's in the state capital budget.
You guys feel good about that? I will get that on the March agenda, and I'll work with Paul and ARC. Because even though it's a pause, they are still obviously working with us to wrap up the DD set there. So they are doing a little bit of work, but it'll just stop the big bills from coming in. An update on the money too, just so you guys have, because we did get the December invoice from ARC. So the grant money that has not been allocated from ARC is about 62,000 at this point that we still have, which will pay the January bill and give us, a little bit of cushion. So good. All right, I think we're in really good shape. It's just, a lot of moving pieces and a lot of timelines we're playing with here, but good stuff.
Right. Campground, we covered that
Yes, we
in the committee report, so we will move on to new business. Field usage fees for the select teams.
Following up on the public comments from the December meeting where the youth soccer group was here talking about, we had discovered, to be honest, that the board had set a fee schedule that included charging for select teams, and the board had set a fee of $15 an hour for teams that were select for field usage. And this was something that had not been implemented the last few years, and so it was a new to them, although it wasn't an approved board motion. So at board direction, I went back to them, and we met actually yesterday. I met with the youth soccer group with the goal of kind of coming to terms with what we thought was a fair compromise in between. If we charge them $15 an hour for a select team, that would be about $350 to $400 a month per team, which would be a cost to the families of those players, and that's a pretty big lift. And I don't think it's a necessary lift from our end. Field use does have costs to it. I mean, not just Tom and his guys. Sky spends a lot of his week doing field schedule stuff. We now have a porta potty we're paying a monthly fee for. So there is extra cost to field schedules. But what we came up with yesterday as a proposal for you guys to consider was a $50 a month per select team fee for using the fields. That will be billed on a season basis. So for instance, if it was a 5-month season, which their summer season, from what I understand, is about 5 months, it would be $250. As we said, if they go a week or so over because of the playoffs, we're not gonna nickel and dime them, we're just gonna make it a flat $50 a month for those 5 months. That comes out to about $3 a player per month, charge. So, they seem very, that seemed very reasonable to them too. It brings in some revenue to offset some of our costs, stays within the spirit of the board differentiating between a select team and a recreation team. And again, how I define a select team versus a recreation team is you can be cut from a select team. So if little Johnny, who's no good at a sport, comes out for a sport and gets cut, to me, that shouldn't be a free deal. That should be something that we should bring some revenue, because that's a different kind of team. So they agreed with that. So our recommendation, the youth soccer group, who's the primary select team users, and that's would be that the board makes a motion to change their policy to make select teams a $50 a month flat fee per team.
So is that billed monthly, or I thought you said at the beginning?
It will be per season, because their seasons are 3 to 5 months,
At the beginning.
but it is $50 a month.
And do it at the beginning of the season.
Yes. And we talked about if it goes a week or so over because of playoffs, fine. Same way if it gets close because of weather. We're not gonna prorate, we're not gonna charge extra, we're just gonna make it a simple $50 flat fee. That way there's no tracking of hours. It's a win-win for both sides.
Yeah, that seems just incredibly logical.
Well, and it came up in the comp plan public meeting, 3 different people raised an issue with this. I think your solution resolves it favorably for them, so appreciate it.
The other thing I'd like in the motion is I'd like this to start June 1st, because they're right at the end of the season now. So if we make this effective immediately, we're gonna start billing them for 2 months and it'd be weird. So I think we started at the beginning of their next select season, which is mid-June. So I think if we, my recommendation is that we propose starting June 1st, that select teams have a $50 a month.
You.
All right, so clarity, so
Yeah.
just so that someone can form the motion properly, so select teams,
Yes,
$50 a month,
yes.
billed as a season at the beginning of the season, effective June 1.
In 2024, effective June 11th. Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the field use fee schedule beginning in 2024, June 1st, for select teams, a flat fee bill per season of $50 a month.
I will second that motion.
It's been moved and seconded to amend our select teams field use fee beginning June 1st, 2024, to be a $50 flat fee per month, billed as a season at the beginning of the season. All those in favor say aye.
Eric,
Aye.
Jake,
Krista, I.
For aye, all those opposed say nay. The ayes have it and the motion passes.
just a question. You said our board approved that $15 fee.
Yes.
Wait,
I don't know when, I can't find it, but it's a fee schedule.
not recently.
No, we have there's a fee schedule that the board would approve, and it was part of that fee schedule. Yeah. So I didn't dig too deep either, but
I was just thinking, the dynamics, and just to clarify, I have the same opinion of select teams versus teams where anybody can play.
Right.
And Whitby's a little different makeup in that regard. We're recruiting even on select teams of any type. So it's not really, I'm sorry, you didn't make the team. And I had clarified that with them as well. Because everyone had a chance to play if they want to. Right. They affirmed that it was. And it kind of goes along with what we're seeing in the numbers and players. So I think it's a great idea.
we want kids to play.
Right.
And they also have developmental teams that are not select teams, but they are kind of the same vibe, that would not fall under this umbrella. Those would still fall under free usage because they're not select teams. But their goal is to develop the skills to, getting kids out there, getting kids playing. What we do.
So for the girls team that's going right now,
Right.
they don't start in June. So they start after high school season ends. So in June, we're gonna go to the South would be soccer club and say, how many are you signing up?
Yeah, my understanding for what they said, and I'm new here, so I'll say, they said that they've got 2 select seasons, mid June to like November. And then they've got the girls team, which goes to like March, maybe April if there's playoffs. So that would be like a 4-month season, so like $200. So that would just be coordinated with Sky saying, hey, here are the teams we have to select, here's the season, here's a check.
I was just wondering if June, are you making that pay or once they start out? Cause that's Kukuk's team, like, cause they don't,
We would charge for the June, I mean, way I see it, charge for the June season. The regular season starts in September. And once that gets done, with any other, so like the 3 teams we have playing right now, we charge them as a separate season.
it's just the time is so different. First,
There's some logistics to work out, but I think it'll be simpler once we get the logistics. And that's ultimately the goal here, is to make it simple. Nice.
All right, moving on to wind phone at Trustland Trails.
All right, again, following up on a public comment from last month, South Whitby resident Susie Reynolds is here tonight, proposing adding a wind phone at a predetermined location at Trustland Trails. The location was recommended by Tom as a nice spot out of the way of the main trail users, but yet still reasonably accessible for people to visit. Susie is in attendance to give us some of the specifics. Susie, welcome. If you want to say a few words.
Sure. Yeah, so I walked with Tom and Brian a couple months ago to the site, and I think it would be reasonably accessible for people, especially those with mobility issues. I've been raising funds and we're not quite to our goal, but we're doing really well. So really I have a group of people who have volunteered to help build it. They've got some, do you have this?
Which one? Yeah, I think you've given me some.
Okay, yeah, so I purchased the phone already, which would be installed in the little 3-sided booth. And yeah, so we're hoping that you guys will approve it.
And where's the specific location?
We can give you, see if you, I'm sorry, it's good.
No.
We have a nice mile marker here, which is the porta potty. So if you've been on Trusted Trails, you see on the bottom of the trail, there's the porta potty. You come up about, it's 50, 75 yards. And then off to the right there's a natural opening.
So it's up the equestrian trails?
yes,
Got it. Okay.
Got the T?
the newest equestrian trail we did a year, 2 years ago. You walk up that little rise to the right before the top of the hill. To the right, there's this little mossy natural path.
So it's beyond where you would tee off to the left where
Yes.
we don't want the horses because that's the ADAS. So it's beyond that.
So it's literally right above the porta potty. And so
We're pretty sure here.
you walk above the porta potty to the right. It's almost directly between the ADA loop and the new equestrian trail. It's just tucked back in. There's a
So
natural,
people access it off the equestrian trail.
yes.
This is the equestrian trail. On the screen here?
Yeah.
This is the porta potty. This over to the left here is the ADA loop. So this is the equestrian trail coming right up here. And then the proposed site is right off to the
That's it in the next picture, right?
Yes, and then if you look to your left, you see how Tom mentions there's just a natural mossy spot. And you go back here, it's deeper than it looks, it's farther back, so. The goal of this, the purpose of this is to allow people a chance to spend a moment to remember a loved one. So it's pretty private back there, but yet still accessible if you have mobility issues. I think Tom found a nice option for this. From a staff perspective, I'll give you some of the things to consider, just according to our policy. For a long-term sign or something like this to be put inside, to put in the park, obviously it needs to be approved by the board. The requirement is petitioner needs to have professional designs done, which have dimensions and placements, which we have those as part of your packet too. Sorry, I have some bad that screen. Additionally, the petitioner is responsible for all maintenance and upkeep. This would include any damage caused by trees or if it was vandalized, if the phone was stolen, if the stool was, whatever is done to the thing, the petitioner is responsible for. So the board takes no responsibility, or the district takes no responsibility for upkeep. If at any time, the district decides this isn't working, like it's just not being upkept or whatever, then we just have to give notice and then we can remove it. So it's a relatively small structure. So that's one of the things that I think Tom and I were talking about. If it became an issue, which I don't think it will, I think Susie and her team are very committed to this. Quite honestly, that's part of what sold me on it, was I think there's a commitment to this that's pretty significant. But ultimately the risk to the district is the worst case scenario, we would just have to remove it.
What's the, guys?
So if you and I are the Trails Committee, with mobility being a consideration, I don't think that's good placement. It's not off of it's not off of any of the gravelled ADA loops. I was just out there this weekend and the equestrian trail is rough and it will be rough. It's an equestrian trail, right?
So,
And the part going up is not gravelled either.
so we have a gravel up past that spot. If you guys want access off the ADA loop, I'll do it.
So where I was thinking,
Seriously.
Matt, so
ADA loop is
you
behind it.
bring up the Trust and Trails map. Ha ha. Let's put you on the spot.
Well, is that, can I just ask what, we just redid the signage, like the trail intersection signage and all that. What's the plan for, information on like on the bulletin board and signage to get there, that kind of thing? Have we thought about that?
I have a spot in mind that would make that super easy.
So what were your thoughts on that?
I just had signage planned to go on the outside of the structure.
Structure, okay. So how about for something down, like on the board? Down there in the parking
I
area?
can, yeah, I have, there's a website that, has all of that stuff with a QR code type thing.
Yeah, okay.
And a small, like, this is what this is, and, they put all of the ones in the United States on their map and stuff like that, so they can provide that as well.
Okay, yeah, so I think we should make sure there's something there so people know that it's there and that how to get to it.
Mm-hmm.
And then think about whatever we end up doing from this standpoint, that there's something that says, because I get the part about having it, someplace where there's some solitude. So it's not going to be overtly like walk right up to it. So to know where it is, I think is another important part. Let's put some kind of a little similar to what we have or something. I don't know.
So something we're still trying to work on is updating our trail map for out there. It's pretty, it's rough and it's antiquated. We want to make it more in line with what we have with some kiosk, probably 5 or 6 kiosk spots with the updated map system. And we could probably, where we decide to put it, we could put wind phone.
Yeah.
And we could actually have people with wind phone on that. On that kiosk.
So with
Like,
this being the original ADA loop and this being Serenity and Tranquility. Actually, I don't know if this is Tranquility, this is Serenity. So if you're coming, Tom, on the upper part, right? There's a nice little rise
also, and can you
that
show
that
me,
actually is there's a cutout on the right-hand side. Am I tickling
can you
anything?
show me the equestrian trail first, just calibrate?
So the equestrian trail is gonna be over here.
Yeah, it was the last one we did.
That's not on there.
Yeah, so it's over here.
So I think I know what you're talking about. So is it the one right?
It's
The very
it's
first
very first right.
I know where
You're talking
Right,
about,
so then that gets people who, whether they're in a wheelchair, if they're using a walker, they're on the ADA, they don't have to venture far, and there's already a nice little cutout.
are you talking about on the way up the hill? On that
on
loop,
the right, right?
on the right side, like halfway up the hill, 3/4 of the way up the hill.
Oh, it's not even that far.
It's. The only reason,
It's
I
the
mean,
lights.
I walked all around looking for the spot, just kind of knowing
Mhm.
what this is for. And I think privacy
Okay.
is a big part of what I was looking for.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
I agree.
And because I think what they're looking for is a quiet place where you don't have a bunch of people and dogs walking by you.
Right.
And so the spot we chose, that we looked at, is close, it's tucked away. I could very easily, if you want to connect it to the
I like where you're going. I think if it gets to your point, you have a little side trail that's unobtrusive but that is purposeful and gets you there.
So if you look at the picture here, this is you're looking at from the equestrian trail.
Yeah.
The 88 trail's right behind it.
Yeah, so, I mean, it's literally. right
So we could protect,
I could do it if that's what you want.
Yeah, and I think that's probably the better access, you know.
yeah, the walker or wheelchair, something, just. That, when Susie came out and looked at it, she had a young lady she was watching who, you could tell walking on those, even on the trail was, there was mobility isn't always walkers and wheelchairs, sometimes it's just balance. I think that's, having easy access.
I mean, I like how you describe the spot. And if we can get there from the ADA loop, then I think we get both of those. We get to your concern.
Just trying to visualize and I have if there's any other little.
And may I ask a question?
Of course.
Was the community park thought of at any point?
Yes. Just initially, the community park was the original thing. I believe Susie's first thought was the space back by the high school where the campground would be, I believe. I'm trying to remember the initial conversation. Not knowing that was going to be a campground, but I think that was one of the initial thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, trust land to me is a quieter spot, just in general, right? There's a lot of times during the day where the campground property in the park is got school activity going on, got lots of park users, got teams in the vicinity, like lots of activity. My personal feeling is trust land trails is a more appropriate spot of the two.
I was just, thinking about it from an access point of view. Just knowing that there are more roads, more ways into the community park, trying to have this available for as many people as possible. And wondering if there were any spots, not on the campground side of the trails, but the other side of the park, like in between the fields and the district offices. Again, I was just thinking from an access point of view. That's all.
Yeah, the one issue with that is that the trails, no matter where we are, none of our main park trails are ADA. So
Okay.
in terms of like if we were off on like on the margins of one of the roads in the park, that's one thing, but to just put it in like I get what you're saying about access. I understand. I'm sympathetic to that, but like you actually get out onto a trail, it doesn't meet ADA.
Part of my thinking on that was being so close to the high school, our Monday half days, we have experienced a lot more vandalism. Just the tagging and things that we've
Proximity,
experienced,
yeah.
especially in the last year. Community park is, there's not a lot of eyes on our trails, and there's an awful lot of kids running around like unsupervised. So it's just, like Matt was saying, it's two kind of different feels.
If the board, sorry, Jim.
Yeah, so someone's walking by, they go to the park all the time. What is, besides the new structure there, would there be a placard or something saying what the purpose is and
Yes.
kind of walking somebody through why we erected this wind
Yes.
zone?
The plaque on itself would just have the specific wording, and then there's also a QR code that will take you to a website that explains all the details of it that I And also I was thinking about,
Yeah, like that.
That's on the board.
oh yeah, there's that.
Oh, thank you. And having talked to Susie a few times about this, I know she is flexible on the location, but hoping that if the board's agreeable to allow her to create this, that she can have it done by February, which notes her son's birthday, which is the motivation for this. Which means that if we're not completely comfortable on it, perhaps Jennifer or even Matt, the Trails Committee, I think we'd be more than happy to meet her out there. I think she'd be more than happy to meet us out there and to walk the spot and to get eyes on it. If you'd rather see it.
I mean, I trust that you guys picked the right spot. I think the modification to get access from the ADA loop, I think that, for me, that settles it.
Are you comfortable with that?
Everybody's good with that. I'll make a motion that we approve the wind farm structure in trust line trails at the agreed spot.
Yeah, I'll second that.
Hang on.
Okay.
Okay, it has been moved and seconded to approve the wind phone structure at Trustland Trails at the approved spot. All those in favor say aye.
Eric,
Jake, I.
Krista, I.
Jennifer, aye. All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it and the motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you for bringing it to us. It's awesome.
Yeah.
I wasn't at the meeting last month when you initially presented it, so I was playing a bit of catch up and I said, I know exactly what she's talking about. I listened to that story on NPR and I listened to it a couple of times because it is such a beautiful story. So thank you for bringing that to our community.
Thank you for allowing me.
I never heard of it. How many are there roughly?
There's a few hundred in the US now.
200? Cool.
Yeah, but this is the first,
I think our closest, and isn't it the one in Bellingham? I think that's the one that's closest.
yeah, there's only a few in Washington.
They go fit in the south would be really nicely.
And we could reorganize something for the, something for the opening.
Ribbon cutting, if you will, or
Yeah.
however you wanna mark that. I think that's a lovely idea. We could reach out to Kira maybe and.
Yeah.
And Kira's running a story on this already. She's aware of it, and I think she's looking to see how tonight's meeting went.
I know.
Now we have to go back to.
I know, now back to. All right, so. If you would mind just signing in before you leave, I know Susie's very good as well, thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, so Carrie's not here, people catch things. That's nice. All right, well.
So comp plan, I guess?
Comp plan, let's talk comp plan. Just a quick update on the timeline, a reminder on the timeline. Where we're at is tonight's meeting is designed to review community feedback on surveys and the open house. And decide if the feedback is sufficient for us to move forward with creating a official draft of the plan. Or if we want to extend the community feedback portion. The initial timeline has us having a draft ready by the next meeting in February. And the board approving it in the March meeting. So let's get to what the survey said. As of Friday, we've received 418 surveys. A couple more came in over the weekends. I think we're at 420 now. The breakdown of cities, pretty even, Langley, Clinton, and Freeland. I have the ability to remove the input or votes from the non-residents, just so we actually get a real South Whitby, which is a nice feature that you'll see a little bit going forward. These are the questions in the survey and how they voted, if you're for the size of the print. First question is, which amenities or facilities have you or your family used in the last year? As you can see, walking trails, 89% was huge. The lakes were higher than I would have thought. 57 is pretty good. Playground, soccer fields, pretty good balance of the kind of people that were responding to the survey. I'm just going to go through all this and we can come back and talk about it. Next question was rank the following types of programs, in terms of what you would like us to prioritize for the next 6 years. Youth programs and teen programs were clearly number one. Well, these are percentages of who had them in their top three. Youth sports, adult recreation sports, nature, environment, senior recreation, adult fitness. So you see a high priority on youth and teen in the survey so far. Outdoor facilities and what we should prioritize, trails, they love the trails. Waterfront and beach access, even though it's not ours, it's important to the community. I think that's coming through clearly. Then there's a good size drop, but still important: playgrounds, sports courts, picnic shelters, disc golf, campground, and the turf fields. Round out that part of the survey. Indoor facilities, prioritize, I'll just, if you hold up.
Minor point on the
Yep.
last slide, they weren't sorted in order. Just in terms of sharing this.
Well, the survey does 1 through 8. So what I did was took the top 3. So I didn't, this is the order of, if you rank them, or how many is there, so 10. So the survey puts them in order, or like if you voted something 7, 6, it counts all of that. I only went through and looked at the top 3. What were people really?
Well, I get that. I'm just saying in terms of like sharing this out. 20 sport courts should be above playgrounds and sports fields should be above picnic shelters and.
If I do the percentage in their top 10, it would show a linear, it would be in order. So, you know what I'm saying? I cherry picked the top 3 of everyone to kind of see.
Yeah, but can you just like on this slide move them?
I can flip it.
Yeah, just in terms of, because
Yeah.
anybody who looks at it is gonna go, I voted.
Math wasn't our strong point.
Well, yeah, just somebody would say, I didn't vote, why is disc golf being done? It was lower than campground.
Right. And those are part of the questions that we have to look at. Obviously, when people know what we should prioritize, they know we're going to prioritize swimming pools. So that obviously ranks really well. Gymnasium's right behind it though. After school programming, fitness room, rental halls for both larger and smaller events, and then indoor training, and the lowest response. And this was the public meeting. Krista, Matt, and I were at the public meeting last week. We had 8 community members plus us. Indoor facilities, the comments were need for a gymnasium. Make sure that whatever we do is ADA accessible for everyone, and the use of local subs when possible. Outdoor facilities, outdoor soccer for all seasons, cover used by locals. I think that talked about subs.
Covered soccer.
Yeah, no, there was a conversation about like, some training, like some portion of a facility somewhere that had a tension fabric cover over part of it. And the team, when it was just nasty conditions, they would do drills in this area with this partial cover.
So multi.
Yeah, and then when we kept pulling the string, we got a lot of good feedback on futsal.
Yeah.
On the fact that we do it, and the idea was, okay, if you guys have a gymnasium and you're playing, are you going to be able to do futsal in there? For us. So I think that's kind of where they left it. So no, more just that all season, and they expressed appreciation for figuring this thing out over here. So having that field is one good thing. Working on a turf field is another good thing, and then working on a gym that we can play futsal in the winter. I mean,
but ADA was brought up again, and then programs, more canine trainings beyond 1 year, not just for puppies, and then youth football was brought up as a suggestion. So this is the feedback we've received so far. We've received about 420 surveys. We've had a public meeting. Kind of the question back to the board becomes, are we comfortable with that feedback? Do we want to extend it? Couple options we have. One is not to extend it, just keep our timeline. Let's get the comp plan done by March. RCO, which is one of our main funders, rather easily would give us a 6-week extension if we want. The comp plan, let me clarify, the comp plan we have currently expires the end of February, which means if we went to apply for funding in March and April, if we didn't have a comp plan done, then we wouldn't be able to, it would just show that we had an expired comp plan, which in some cases would,
And most grants, it's a requirement.
yeah, it would take us out of the rent on comp fund. So with RCO, which is the main funder, they can extend it 6 weeks if we request it. Even longer if we want to appeal to the deputy director. One of the challenges of this comp plan is that we're building a pool, which is taking up a lot of our bandwidth for the next 3 years. And so, there's so much more that can be added on in the 6-year plan when you're building a $27 million facility. So there are limits a little bit to how grandiose. I mean, 6 years ago, the comp plan had a lot of big ideas. And now we've accomplished one of those big ideas with this huge aquatics center. So anyways, back to you guys. The question becomes, should we extend this and look to extend this beyond, ask for, try to get this into March, April? Or should we just plow ahead and?
But to your point, we're up against
We're
a hard timeline with that whole.
And to the
audit thing.
funding,
yeah.
And
I'd say there's one thing we could do. It's what we did with the pool survey with the seniors, because it's clear the seniors didn't get the memo. So we used constant contact, the email thing with the pool survey. We said it, we got,
Robin Bush.
I had good contact for this.
Huh?
Yeah, because it was me last time.
who was the director?
Oh, Sharon, she's not there.
Yeah,
anymore.
okay. So anyway,
Robin Bush is in charge of the newsletter and stuff. so
well,
she-
but it wasn't newsletter, it was the constant contact email. We sent that survey out on Friday, on a Thursday night. We got 200 responses, 100% filled out in 48 hours.
You're saying it's not clearly represented because the older generation.
Yeah, it's, yeah,
That was what stood out.
yeah, so I mean, like I said, I'll bet you we could get in 2 days, at least 100 responses that I think it would at least give us a directional idea if all of a sudden we get a bunch of different feedback, because I think we got a lot of very similar surveys from very similar sources. I think that's the thing I would do, because it's not gonna inject any more time. We'll get those back in a couple of days tops. And I think with that, I feel more comfortable with knowing that we at least made that effort.
Mhm.
Because our 2025 demographic from the pool study, in 2025, our median age on South Whitby is 59.3 years. Wow. Yeah. 59.3ry. So, like,
That was the first thing I thought of when I read through this.
Me-
Our youth programs,
Yeah.
something too. Doesn't really represent.
right, so I mean, that, like, so it's just, I think we just need to take an extra step, in my opinion, to collect that input. If we didn't get it here, which it feels like we didn't get it here.
So you're saying go to Island Senior Services, have them.
I agree
blast
with
it on
you. Just
their-
yeah, take your email, don't do anything, just say, put this out on constant contact. And give, set a deadline of Friday night.
And where did we go initially when we?
We mailed it to everybody. So that was the big push, is that we did a postcard to the entire district.
Right,
But yeah, then we've done some social media stuff, we've done some direct mailing, yes, there we go. With the front that got messed up, it's okay, the back that matters.
Yeah, I was curious the other. So people received them.
Yeah, that's what we got
I
for.
think that just because of equity, I think to myself, I understand why we would do that, but then I think, okay, now help it through.
Yeah, it's,
Now to the school district.
right, to me, it's, yeah,
Do a beach star too.
yeah, it's,
I guess that's what I'm saying, that when you start to target a
Yeah.
particular section of the population,
Yeah.
albeit good intentions behind it, I question.
yeah, well, you did it, but again, you think about access mechanisms, like certain demographics gonna respond to something in the mail, certain demographics gonna respond to something in email, certain demographics gonna look for something on Facebook. And I'm not smart enough to know where
Yeah.
the bias comes.
No, I
in.
get it, I just think it's a tough.
Something clickable rather than a QR. code.
I don't know, maybe it shows up in the mail and that the QR code is not a familiar enough thing to know what to do.
Because everyone,
Second last.
because everyone's got it, right? Everyone has gotten a survey at this point, because it's been mailed to them, rather they looked at it, rather they threw it in the garbage, whatever. I like the senior thing. I actually don't mind the peach jar is free, right? You can just send peach jar, doesn't hurt to Do a couple.
I'm saying the district can send it out and reach a lot of people.
It's a Pete starts.
I agree. I think that's not, I don't think it's bad.
The more the better.
And put it on Facebook one more time.
Well, maybe in the paper ones.
Did
So
it go
yeah,
out on
we can
Drew's
look
list?
On what?
Did it
Drew's
go out on
list.
Drew's list?
That's just new to me.
The old cruise.
I'm just learning Drew's list. Yes,
Wow.
no, it did not go on Drew's list, which is a good idea.
What about the paper, like with a 1 week timeline to?
Yeah, we submitted something early on. I forget, Carrie was working on this with me, so I don't remember what exactly what had been papered on. But from really the comp plan, the question becomes purpose of the comp plan. Obviously, we need the comp plan for funding, and that's huge because we're doing it, we also need a comp plan just to keep us on track. I mean, a lot of what there's other opportunities out there, and there's other things that kind of keep us going there. If we do this last minute push over the next week or two, and then give me a week or two to kind of put it into draft form for the February meeting, then give you guys a month to look at it, make it public, it'll be a public meeting in February, so people can comment and look at it at that point. With the goal of having the draft finalized in March. Is that too soon? Is that feeling rushed?
Yeah, I think you have to do it that way, but.
You said we have to have it done, we have to have it submitted
Yeah,
by.
grant applications will be submitted,
No,
so.
we can get a 6-week extension at
Right.
least.
No, yeah, we're thinking, I've just been thinking about that. Like the challenge with that is the first thing that the grant review board looks at is your comp plan. So, and you're in a 2024 grant meeting and there's 28 projects and 27 of them have comp plans that end in 2025, 6, 7, 8, and one of them's at 2023. Even though we have an extension, it's not going to look great. So I think the extension is our bailout. But like, I think, the important things that have in the comp plan that they lean back on are, did you do a needs assessment? Like, what's this based on? So this survey and that section of the comp plan says, how did you do it? We mailed it out, we put it on Facebook, we sent it to seniors, we put it on Drew's list. We had public meetings. So we collected this input. So that's the first, that's
more the better.
that is it. The more the better. And you're going to get, that's part of say a grant review is going to say, what's the needs assessment process? Did they do one? Is it recent? Like the problem with our comp plan, this one, is we were looking at a needs assessment that was done years earlier. So we had gotten questions along the way in various grants saying, you don't have any more current survey. So this is going to be great. The timing of this is really pretty good, even though we're right up against it, because we're going to be able to say, we did a survey, just this year back. It was late. So anyway, we'll get credit for that. The other thing that they look at is that level of service thing. So that's just the inventory. What do we have? So to look at that. And then your projects that you submitted for grants need to be in your list of things that you want to accomplish. So right now we have, in the current one, we have 9 projects, 10 projects, something like that, right? We got pool, turf field, trails, lakes, tennis, amphitheater, something else. So all we gotta do is have them in that list. And what we tried to do in that list is just kind of rank them, because like, we could have 10 things in there and we got a lot of stuff to do in the next 6 years. So maybe we don't get to all 10, but having them in there means that they don't get excluded. So I think it doesn't hurt us to have them in there. And if maybe we organize that, because that's kind of the core of it. We organize that and say, these are the high priority things that we really want to focus on. And it's only a couple of those, the gym, turf field, trails that have the highest feedback, right? And then we say, these are the other things that we really want to get to if we have the bandwidth to get to them, because that might give you a chance to say, we're going to submit a grant request and include $100,000 for a project manager to do the amphitheater or to do the disc golf course or to do the whatever. And look at our comp plan. We said we really want to get to these, but we don't have the bandwidth. So we're asking you for money to give us the bandwidth, that hire a CPA, to go to Brendan, those kind of things can be in those. I think just listing those things in there and maybe just doing that kind of prioritization, say these are the core things we want to try to get done, and then these are the other things we want to try to get done, and the list is, like I said, it's less than 10. Right?
So, just a question, having not, been through this before, and cognizant that the county commissioners are working on the comp plan, for the county.
Yeah.
Do we ever get action items or asks from them as a result of their process?
Well, yeah, I'll tell you what happened the last time, and it's not so much inclusion during the development, which would be good, but it was last comp plan, the county decided to get out of active recreation. So they came out with their comp plan and said, we no longer want to maintain, be responsible for active recreation facilities. That came out, and then in the ensuing year, county commissioners came to our meetings to tell us, or to ask us, will you take on X, Y, and Z active recreation? That's where the lakes came from. That's where Dan Porter Park came from. That's where Dave Mackey Park came from. That's where Freeland Hall. All those things came from the comp plan. They were in the aftermath. So we didn't get asked about it. We didn't get included in the conversation, but then we had to deal with it. I mean, that's where we're in the middle of a budget year. And we were talking about what the county said was either you guys take the lakes or we're going to lock the gates. And we had to decide, are we going to take on this budget, impact on mid-year, whatever it was, whatever month that was. So yeah, it happens. And I think if you look in the comp plan, we have the list of stakeholders, and that was an attempt by us to say, we want to share this thing out to all these people so they can review it and know what's in it as an active thing, rather than 3 years into it, say, oh yeah, we should have told youth football at this, or we should have told Port of South Whitby this other thing. We give them a copy of it so that they have it, and then they can come back to us and say, hey, we read that you want to do a turf field. Don't you know the pool's doing one?
But there's if we did that, right? So we come up with this plan and we share it with this deadline, there is no actual time for them to comment or contribute.
Yeah, I mean, they can, so that they can.
Here you go. That's a different, it's just different.
No, you're right. And it's, maybe that's a process improvement for the next comp plan, is to say we want to involve these stakeholder entities in a formal way a year early or something like that. I would say in a informal way, if you look at that stakeholder list and you think of it with that question in mind, have these stakeholders provided input to this comprehensive planning process? For example, youth soccer club is listed. They have provided input to this plan. The pickleball club is listed. They have provided input. Their needs have been considered in this plan. We've engaged with them. We know what their needs are. They know what our plans are. So I would bet in an informal way, you could probably pick half of the stakeholders on that list. And, we've been to port meetings. We've presented to them on the aquatic center. We've been to Langland City Council meetings. We've talked to them about our plans. We've talked to RCO about our plans. They're a stakeholder. So I think maybe we just recognize that's the current state, and we say, do we want to make a more formal process for the next comp plan to involve them, you know, more, like I said, more formally in the review or input.
It was hurt obviously by not having a director for the 7 months, because this comp plan would have started in spring, maybe summer. But it may be one of the things that Matt would, and Krista would kind of help with this is if we have a draft ready by the board meeting in February, maybe we share that out to all the stakeholders and they've got the month before we approve it a month later. So that gives them a month to at least look at the draft and to get feedback and comments. So
I would add just that, when I read through this, one, I thought it represented the direction we're headed is the right direction. And two, you know, even though I have a question about seniors being represented in that, then I went back and said, you know, if I'm a grandparent, if I'm an older person, that doesn't mean I'm disregarding the youth. Right, that's a priority for me still.
Mhm.
And so that may be a very legitimate read. I'm not saying we
Yeah.
shouldn't reach out more, but just that that's a
No, I agree.
possibility as well.
it what stands out to me most on the survey initially is the youth team component. It's loud, 72-61.
Yeah.
That's a statement comment. So
It also went up to the, fall list that Barry has, that's like 300 or 400.
Yeah.
Yeah, which seems really strange that the pickleball number on there is tiny. Go back to your pickleball.
They've done that, of course.
The one, I think your first slide.
The network facilities?
No, your first slide.
Wow. These will be able to use it.
Right, but I'm saying if we sent to 300 people on a pickleball mailing list,
They didn't take the survey.
that's crazy. Because we got 400 surveys back, so that means we got, what do we get, 14% of
Yeah,
400.
they could have been confused by pickleball courts and programs in the community center. Some of those 18% could have been pickleball people that said, maybe they're thinking they had pickleball courts at the sports complex versus. So there could have been a little bit of
For
confusion.
perception, it's in process.
And it's,
Yeah, and if you look, we were talking about this at the public meeting. If you look at the big chunks of those things, right? That walking trails is you know, as we've done walking trails in the past, it's acquiring a property like cross street, like trust line trails, and either building out the trails or put trails in it, right? So those are acquisition projects. You know, in the tune of, you know, $500,000, kind of, those properties have been in that range, right? So think about that. The gymnasium idea, there's a drawing in that stack. The ARC guys have drawn the gym as phase 2 of this build, two courts. So we got it, it's penciled out. We wanted to figure out, does it overlap the wetland setback? And it does not, so we're good. So that we've got that to be able to put it in a grant package. And that shows like we're thinking ahead, like all this, that shows great preparation. So that roughly by square footage is about 7, 8 million. So a big chunk, we would have to, you know, in 6 years, can we come up with $8 million to build that? And then the third one is the turf field conversion thing in terms of money. You know, in that project, we've estimated at about 1.7 or 1.8 million. So we figure the trails thing is chunks of about $500,000 each. The phase 2 gym thing is about a $7-8 million thing, and the turf conversion is a $1.5-2 million thing. And we got grant sources out there that have a cap of about 2 million. So we could, you know, if in the 6 years, you say, you know, those are the highest priority things, very likely we could be successful with the trails land acquisition to put another trail property in someplace we don't have them. You know, Possession Point or, you know, Freeland North, you know, someplace like that. Very likely we could paste it together to do the turf field conversion with 1 to 2 million. And then the big chunk is trying to figure out how to find 8 million for the gym. We have a drawing for it. So for me, I think like you know, that's gonna be a big press, but I can get my arms around that. And then the other ones to me are targets of opportunity. We find the right property, like the other 40 acres of trust line trails, and we say, could we put a disc golf course there? Could we put a off-leash dog area there? You know, like I think those are other ones that we'll be able to just, hey, opportunity pops up. Can we do something? Can we find some money?
So I think what we are extending it. That's what I'm hearing.
I'm not hearing that.
You're not.
So I would say to March is, to me, March is fine, because if we have a plan in March, the first application deadline's mid-April. If we got a plan in March, if we got a plan all the way to the 15th of April, we're okay. If we
Okay.
sign off on it.
So yes, we are, I will ask for
But,
this.
but I think you talk about a 6-week delay, that puts us right up against that, and it potentially, so we just ask them for.
I'm sorry, I didn't ask my question properly. Survey extension, pardon.
Survey is still open, so we've never closed the survey.
Okay.
So we're gonna,
Are we gonna do the?
Yeah, the question is, should we send, should we go for this?
We're doing that
Your services, right? I mean, let's get that timeline.
We'll do that this week, and we'll give it a week or so.
You just sit, I mean,
It
I'll
won't
take
take
that
long.
a Sunday night or something, like set it quick, like, let's just try to get another couple hundred from, people will respond.
I think survey wise, this is the right time of year to send it as well.
Yeah, people sitting around.
Exactly, and they're spring.
But I think where we're having a hard time wrapping our head around is the. Do we want ours submitted before the county submits theirs? Do we want it out there doing so that we do just what we want to do or up against this deadline? Right?
Yeah,
I think that's where I feel like we're hung up.
No, it sounds like, I think it kind of sounds like this document is really most important as for funding. As
Yep.
opposed to being a document that we use to guide our decisions and our vision. You know what I mean? I think they're two different documents. And it sounds like what this really needs to be right now is something that is for funding. In which case, there's no reason we can't get it done in the timeline to have it ready to go in March. If we were looking to craft a document that truly is a strategic document for ourselves to go forward, then I think it's a different answer. That's what
Yeah,
I'm
maybe,
hearing.
or maybe we do something like, what's included in there right now are the mission, vision, guiding principles, right? So that, at least the strategic framework. Maybe we say something like, or we reach out to RCO to say, hey, we're gonna set this, we're gonna approve this plan, we're gonna need an extension, we're gonna approve it in March. That's our target. And then over the course of the first year, we're gonna do a strategic review of our principles, and programs or whatever, like to your point, Krista. Can we go, I don't know the process well enough. Can we come back and,
We don't need to, I think it's just, we just need to be clear on what this document is and why we're doing it. And that's.
well, so, but what the state would say is this is your roadmap for this 6-year period. So it's strategic in that it's 6 years, but it's also a tactical period. It's not that long. So that's what the state would call it. From a practical standpoint, it's funding, but we do things like form committee assignments and committee structure out of it. And we refer to it when we talk about decisions like this ADA input, that should be, to me, a guiding principle. That we consider ADA in everything we do. So I think it's got all of those purposes beyond funding. That, if it's 90% good instead of 100%, or it's 80% or 60%, we should make it as good a 60% solution as we can.
We keep the survey open till the end of the month, 2 weeks, January, we reach out to large sources that we think we haven't heard back from. We post,
But right, and that'll give me 2 or 3 weeks to put it into draft format. For the February meeting.
Yes.
It's not ready.
Are you good with that, Krista?
And this doesn't tie our hands, like pickleball's a great example. Pickleball wasn't in the last comp plan, but it became a priority in the district that we addressed outside of the comp plan. The comp plan is not at all inclusive. This is the only thing we're doing. It just gives us the direction of this is the focus.
Well, you knew it in our application that it wasn't the state sport when we did the guideline.
Yeah.
So
Okay, cool.
in the interest of a weather update
Okay,
at 8 o'clock, it is going to have an 85% chance of rain and we are at 33 degrees. So.
Okay.
I'm happy in my Volkswagen. I'm fine. I'm from Minnesota. I got this.
You poor people.
You poor people.
I feel comfortable with where we are with the comp plan, and I will have a draft for you that we can also share out to our partners in.
Great.
Right.
Budget amendment for the parks position.
Well, in October, at the board meeting, I mentioned that if the bond passed, that I would be back early in 2024 to talk about reallocating the $75,000 that we put towards a potential off election if it didn't pass, towards staffing. Due to the closeness of the election to when our budget was due, we weren't able to put this into the budget. So we had to make an amendment to the budget now. With the bond passing, I'm proposing taking the $75,000 that were allocated for the elections and doing the following. One is hiring a new parks position. Estimated cost is about $59,000 from March to December. And then the offset of that would be the $12,168 that you already approved in our special meeting a couple of weeks ago. That would be the allocation roughly at about $71,000 of that 75. The justification, in addition to Tom and his crew, currently being stretched now to cover the expanding trails and park. The addition of the aquatic recreation center, new pickleball courts, and possible campgrounds, will definitely require hiring at least one more maintenance staff. Hiring them in 2024 will allow while we have the funds available, will allow not only for the immediate work to be covered, more completely, it'll also allow Tom to play more of an active role in the projects that will simultaneously be going on in the parks. Important to note that this is not just a random ask. I do kind of feel like every month I'm coming back to you with something different. But we are putting together a strategic plan to build up the staff team over the next 3 years. We're not going to be adding full-time staff like this in the near future. But I will be bringing a plan later in the year saying, okay, here's how we're going to look to build up our staff over the 3-year plan. Here's how we're going to cover it financially. But the admin that we just hired and the parks person we're requesting to hire are just what we need today. So there's not gonna be any other full-time ads coming down the pike, so I'm not coming back to you every couple of months.
So to that point and to Krista's input earlier, what if you took your strategic plan, staffing strategic plan and stuck it in as a page in the comp plan?
Yes, if I can get it done that quickly, because there's a lot of moving.
And again, it's strategic, so it can be, you can squint your eyes at it. Like you can say, we intend to add staff to support these programs as they come online. This involves park staff, this involves program staff. So it can be just that kind of strategic level. So again, I think I appreciate Krista's input. I think we have a strategic staffing plan. It should be in the comp plan. And we do have one, so let's put it in the comp plan.
A lot of it's gonna be cool staff. I mean, it's how to build that cool staff.
Yeah.
When to bring them on, how to bring, yes, I like that.
And it's like you say, you don't need the detail in there, like just that we have to staff this aquatic center in roughly 2026 and, you know,
6 to 60, so.
that kind of thing.
So anyways, that's what I'm recommending tonight is we've got the money this year, the need is there for now.
Yeah, and I, from a treasurer standpoint, I support it works.
yeah, we're definitely gonna need a staff going forward, more staff.
Any thoughts, Krista?
No, I completely agree. And as long as, you know, from a budget point of view, I appreciate your blessing as treasurer.
Yes. So if there's no other question, I'll make a motion to approve the plan for the elections budgeted line
For what?
for the use of the budget election funds for a parks position and the previously approved CPA work.
Oh, I'll second that.
Right, it has been moved and seconded to take the $75,000 previously budgeted for elections for the hiring of a new parks position and the cost of the CPA work as approved in the January 3rd special meeting. All those in favor say aye.
Eric, aye.
Aye.
Jake, aye.
Krista, I.
Jennifer, aye. All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it and the motion passes. All right, moving to the next, Welton Trail.
Another follow-up from the December meeting, staff are requesting to allow the park staff to create a new trail at Max Welton Trail. Since last meeting, staff have met with Dan Coleman from the school district. And after he conferred with the superintendent, the school district has given us their permission to go into their property 42 yards to complete the loop. Staff also toured the site with Jennifer from the trail committee. Yeah, I think everyone's in favor of creating this extra little thing, this extra little loop to create more of a loop. Get people parking over at the school ideally versus on Max Welton. Other than staff time, very little cost to this. Tom and his crew are ready to go, just need your permission.
Entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the trail construction at Max Walton Trails Park for the map drawn on proposal.
That'll be prettier than that. Won't be a straight line.
I will second that motion.
It has been moved and seconded to approve the trail construction at Max Walton Trails Park for the map drawing. All those in favor say aye.
Eric, aye. Jake, aye.
Krista, I.
Jennifer, aye. All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it and the motion is approved.
So just to follow up with that just a little bit, the ADA extension to the wind farm, our normal 5 to 6 foot tread is fine.
It's gotta be just 88 width.
It's gotta be the guide,
It'll basically match the
Yeah.
ADA coming off.
Yeah.
Just wanted to make
and the
sure.
gravel and all of that. Nice and
Perfect.
smooth.
Welcome back from vacation time. Show some projects.
Late winter.
There you
We
go.
can do it. There you go.
Nice job on the trail, like my family, I did.
Which one?
That treasure.
The new one.
Oh.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's really nice. Yeah, back there.
So it's gonna be nice for them.
It's very rugged. I mean,
That was good.
it's so different than what we do here. You know, when we get out, I mean, just,
Well, the connection, you know, and I don't know how many people have this connection, but my daughter and son were hiking with me. My daughter got a picture by the sign that she put in there. When she was in elementary school. It's still there.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's just, there's a lot of history there. And it connects that history to an existing usable trail. So it's awesome.
yeah, as you kind of come back towards the road at this park, it starts to look more like this with the ground.
It'd definitely be nicer. We ended up coming all the way around.
Yep.
You know, which
And I think what would be rocks for.
trail, so.
Oh, yeah. That new trail, I'm definitely gonna use when taking the daughter to the playscape.
Yeah.
Right there.
Right.
So when we get out, whether it's on ice or she gets a little bit bigger.
Don't happen there.
Yeah.
Person should be dragging you. Are we ready for the last slide?
We are.
It's my understanding from previous board discussions, which I obviously were not privy to, that establishing a check-in schedule with the executive director to receive and give feedback was a desire of the board. This can be done annually, quarterly, or whatever you permit the board feels appropriate. Due to quorum restrictions, only 2 of you can sit down with me at a time for this purpose. The month of March is my 6 month mark as a full-time employee, which would be a logic target timeframe to do this check-in. If agreeable to the board, I'd recommend designating 2 board members and establishing a schedule for executive director check-in. And I hope check-in is the right way to put it. I think that's where.
Just clarification on purpose. I know we talked about it.
It's in my notes that. Right, so we talked about that we dropped the ball with the previous director and that, there weren't any reviews. And, that it would probably be, so according to the policy and the offer letter, the first official review, the probationary period is at the end of 1 year. But in our discussions, we had talked about, let's not wait until the very end. Let's have some touch points along the way that aren't official. It's just good feedback. And are we on track? And it's also feedback from Brian to us of, this is where I'm seeing holes. This is where help.
Yeah, and the reason I bring it up is part, and I remember the discussion clearly, and I know we haven't kept it. But also a way for staff to have a voice, was part of that discussion. So that's why I'm asking for clarification.
I think that's where the feedback goes both ways. It's exactly you guys to say, hey, here's good and bad.
Yeah, it's one thing to sit down with Brian, but it's another thing to,
But did you mean staff with the director?
no, I mean, staff with us and or a survey, whatever format you want. But as we talked about that, that was a big part of the discussion. So I just want to make sure that we're covering both bases. It's one thing to sit down with Brian and talk about how well things are going. It's another thing to talk to Sky and Tom. And when we visited the past, that was something we wanted to make sure.
And Krista has taken advantage of my offer, and I will offer to any of you again. I know you guys work and it's not always available. We do have monthly staff meetings that we will rearrange around you guys' schedule to make it work, but never
Is
you
it
got
on the calendar?
on my calendar. So my,
Is it on the shared
probably not.
Teams calendar?
Sorry, it's the share too.
Yeah,
don't
I-
I don't know, to me.
I'm trying to get Gary on that.
I'm not
Sorry,
seeing
Krista?
anything on the, I'm not seeing anything on the shared team calendar.
So,
Yeah,
again,
To be frank, I have not completely been trained on Teams, and so I might just be looking in the wrong place. So don't go by
It's not
me.
there. It's not there. It will be.
it will be. But it's an open invitation. I mean, I think in an informal setting to come sit down with staff and just hear from them. But Krista, she was on the schedule to come in January, then we had to cancel her at the last minute because we got into those interviews and staff was gone and we were a little busy, but it's a recommendation. We welcome, and I think it'd be helpful for the staff. It tied with you guys just to.
So just to go, I know where you're kind of going, and just being the way I am, I've been here for so long and stuff. I've actually had good board members and bring up things, previous directors where there was issues that it's kind of, I mean, we're so small that it's kind of hard when you're having a problem with your direct supervisor. That's not going anywhere.
Right here.
That's happened, right? Okay. I was just saying that in the past, I've personally gone to, through the 25 years plus. It's not an easy thing to do. It's not a comfortable thing to do, but for me, sometimes things get to the point where I gotta go bad, or I gotta, say, hey, I really see a problem here. And it's not easy to do, but so I think in those situations,
And that's,
I've had to do it. It would be easier if, I mean, we checked in, doesn't have to be every year, and I don't
and
know.
I don't know why I bring it up, Tom.
Yeah.
I would say in the educational world, those checks and balances are
Yeah.
good, right?
We don't have,
Part of a strategic plan. No, but it's a good approach, which means that you may not feel comfortable, and this is not a knock on Brian at all,
No,
I'm
no.
just saying in the process itself,
Yeah.
you may not be comfortable saying something in even a casual meeting or open meeting.
Yeah.
And I want to give a venue so that you can talk openly and thus prevent any of this from happening in the future. So that is where I'm going with it, that, to have a meeting and or it could be a simple survey, it could be a question answer type thing that doesn't have to be very formal, but a way for staff to represent and both ways.
Well, I've heard multiple times over 4 months, staff's desire to, obviously, we're in a formal board meeting. It's a different environment than just having the ability to, even when you guys are swinging the office, chat. It just builds relationship, it builds trust, it builds freedom to speak your mind on those moments, and you feel like there's a relationship behind a moment. So good. For this purpose though, I'll make it back to say, the goal would be, I guess, almost as a committee almost, to assign 2 of you to be kind of the people in charge of the check-in. Whether it's an annual thing, a quarterly thing, a 6-month thing, whatever you guys decide is appropriate. But that's kind of the decision on it.
And my recommendation would be rotational, and so it doesn't rely on 2 board members and you get better representation. So it might be, Jake and Matt at one time, whatever. For a period of time.
So who wants the first shift?
How many volunteers?
I mean, I like the rotation idea. Maybe just take committees, use existing committees to say that aquatic center committee's got this period and the lakes committee's got this one and the campground committee's got this one. Because we're already paired up and
We're talking a lengthy period of time, like every 6 months. We have,
Could be every year, could be every quarter.
yeah,
Really depends. I think for now, what we should probably do is say, if we're gonna do it in March, let's figure March. And then we can come back and see how it went and decide how long.
Right. And one thing I'm not clear on, because I didn't delve into the policy, is with the annual review that is in the policy. Is that in a board meeting? Is that
No, that would be the board.
private?
I'm not sure that's an all, or I have to look at it.
Yeah, so.
Yeah.
I just, it
Be fun.
just seems that we made a promise to one another that we would do better this time in the interest of the board, in the interest of the ED, in the interest of staff. And so as we're coming upon the 6-month mark, then let's.
I agree. That is why I am approaching it the way I am, because I don't want to be in that same place again, where people feel like they're not being represented or not being heard.
Right.
So I'm fine doing it the way Matt is suggesting, by committee and or just volunteering. And so it's not redundant, rotating to. So I will put my hat in the hot for the first one.
There we go. Eric needs a buddy.
There you go.
Need one more. We don't actually need Eric. Just-
That's fair. We can.
That's
I'm happy to do it.
okay. So I'm gonna do this. I'll reach out to you two, get something on the books for March, maybe before the March meeting. That way you guys can report out, see how it went, and then we can kind of talk about steps going forward, whether you think it's a good quarterly or,
yeah, and I think I think Krista, not to volunteer you, but to document this process, whatever comes out of it, I think we come out with a documented process, by the middle of the year, I think we'll be way better off than we've ever been, so.
All right.
And with this being the first one, if the other commissioners have something that they want specifically addressed, please let Eric or myself know. I'm kind of hung up in, and this is just my management style. I am not a fan of annual reviews. Why would you save all that stuff up? Let's just have conversations along the way. Let's make adjustments as we need, all that sort of thing. I know that's maybe too loosey-goosey for this, but
I will say that I will be bringing back to you probably April, maybe May at this point, a whole bunch of, we're gonna start talking policies over and over again. One of the policies on my list are performance evaluations for staff in general, because right now they haven't been happening. Some of you guys can certainly do, rather for the ED, maybe these check-ins every quarter, every 6 months. Take the place of an evaluation, and obviously, if you're not happy, those are times to say it. What's the purpose of it? The purpose of a review is to say, hey, this is what's going well, this is what's not going well from both sides, a chance to check in.
Right, but you could, but I mean, from a strategic standpoint, and Krista, you planted this bug now. You could have, right, you could take the comp plan, I mean, go to a high functioning organization, you would take the comp plan and then boil it down to the year. So 2024 is the year. So what does the comp plan say we're going to do with priority? Okay, these are the 2024 things. And then you, as the director, would get a set of goals to achieve those objectives. And then your goal says we gotta, build an amphitheater, and Sky's got that cascades down to Sky. Carrie's got some portion. She's got to find the money. Guy's got to figure out what we're going to do there. Tom's got to carve it out of the ground, right? So that's how it would flow down. And then the performance evaluation would say, okay, how you doing, Sky, after a quarter, and how you doing after half a year? Are you going to make it? And then how'd you do? So, we should ultimately try to get to something like that. So the comp plan means something. It says, oh, I know what I'm doing, because it's aligned to the things in the comp plan, things that are important to the director, it's things that are important to the board. Somebody comes in the park from the, governor's office or from the legislator, it all just flows and makes sense. So to me, that's where we should end up. And then what you're describing is, I think, Eric, I'm pointing at Eric, Krista, is like the structure to reach outside that system and just have touch points with people that help get to underlying problems that you don't otherwise see, or that people aren't comfortable bringing up through the normal chain. So I think that's an important part of the process too, is how do you systematize that and normalize that, so that it works, it actually functions out there. So I think those are two parts of it. Like, you get the strategic alignment of the performance system, and then can you also get the outside the flow part.
Because we're going to be changing dramatically, right? There's now going to be layers in the staff team. Instead of a director with the staff, it's going to be a director with a leadership team, and the leadership team is going to have staff, and having a good evaluation process, a good goal, all that stuff laid out in an organized way, it's just going to be the same. It's just going to be just.
Yeah, you should be able to sit down with the comp plan on March 15th and write out a set of goals.
And then back to us as a board, as well as to a future management team, are we supporting the staff and the management team with the correct resources to accomplish what we're asking them to do?
Yeah.
So it's a full circle. It should be a full circle loop, or concentric circles layered over each other.
I can see you penciling that out right now, Krista.
Sounds like
Yeah.
See it. We're all trying to envision it. I can see it
All right.
going down as your
This
notepad.
first one's gonna be very organic, okay?
organic. There you go. Good. You support. I'm not recording. Okay.
All right. We good?
We are good.
All good.
Is there a motion that needs to be done with that, or we're good?
I don't think so. I think we're good.
Okay.
All right.
We are adjourned at 8.
10 minutes late for your weather forecast.
Right, Stephen already told me, it's raining.